The day my wife walked out wasn't loud. There were no shattered plates, no screaming neighbors, and no dramatic goodbye. Instead, she calmly rolled 2 expensive suitcases across our hardwood floor, slipped her hand into another man's, and smiled as if 15 years together had been nothing more than a forgotten chapter. Before leaving, she looked back only once and said, "You'll survive. I deserve happiness." By sunset, our joint accounts had been drained. The moving company had emptied most of the furniture, and I stood alone inside the shell of the house we had spent years building together. I thought she had taken everything that mattered. I couldn't have been more wrong. Friends called for weeks, begging me to fight, hire aggressive lawyers, or expose her affair publicly. I ignored every suggestion because anger clouded judgment, and I had already lost too much to make another reckless decision. Every quiet evening inside that nearly empty house felt like punishment. Family photographs still hung on the hallway walls because she hadn't bothered taking them. Looking at those smiling memories felt like staring at strangers. I replayed every conversation, every ignored warning, and every suspicious business trip. Somewhere between heartbreak and silence, I accepted a painful truth. The woman I loved had disappeared long before she packed those suitcases. The divorce happened faster than anyone expected. She arrived holding her affair partner's arm, wearing confidence like expensive jewelry. Her attorney presented stacks of financial documents, insisting everything had already been divided fairly through previous agreements. Exhausted and emotionally broken, I signed what my lawyer approved without arguing over every detail. She walked out laughing with the man who had helped destroy our marriage, believing the future belonged entirely to them. News spread quickly that they planned to renovate our dream home into a luxury property overlooking the lake. Everyone assumed my chapter had ended. Even I believed that lie for a while. Life became painfully ordinary. I rented a modest apartment across town, worked longer hours than ever, and tried rebuilding my routine one exhausting day at a time. Every morning I promised myself not to think about the house, yet every evening memories found me anyway. Then, nearly 8 months later, an unexpected envelope arrived from a county property office. At first I assumed it was junk mail connected to the divorce. Instead, inside rested copies of old ownership filings requesting clarification about a document that had never been properly completed. One missing signature looked insignificant, but something about it refused to leave my mind. The following morning I visited the county records office, expecting someone to tell me the letter had been sent by mistake. Instead, an experienced clerk studied the file, disappeared into a back room, and returned carrying dusty archives older than my marriage itself. She quietly explained that the transfer of full ownership had never been legally finalized because one mandatory document had expired before it was recorded. According to the official record, I still possessed an enforceable legal interest connected to the property's title. She couldn't give legal advice, but her expression suggested I should speak with an attorney immediately. For the first time in months, hope quietly returned. My attorney stared at the paperwork for nearly 10 minutes without speaking. Finally, he leaned back, smiled carefully, and asked one simple question. "Did anyone ever tell you this document existed?" I shook my head. He explained that during the divorce, everyone focused on bank accounts, investments, and visible assets while overlooking an older ownership instrument created years earlier during refinancing. Because it had never been properly canceled or replaced, the transfer remained legally incomplete. My wife and her affair partner had proudly celebrated ownership of property that, under the law, still carried rights they had never bothered to eliminate. Their biggest victory suddenly rested on incredibly fragile ground. The next several weeks unfolded like a carefully planned chess match. My attorney filed the necessary motions without alerting anyone beyond the court. Meanwhile, my former wife posted glamorous renovation photos online, celebrating expensive upgrades, luxury furniture deliveries, and weekend parties overlooking the lake. Friends sent me screenshots, expecting the images to hurt me. Surprisingly, they had the opposite effect. Every smiling photograph reminded me that confidence often makes people careless. They believed the past had been buried forever. Neither of them realized that a forgotten legal mistake, ignored by everyone during the divorce, was quietly moving to the court system toward a decision that would change everything. Several months later, the hearing finally arrived. My ex-wife walked into the courtroom, wearing the same confident smile I remembered from the day she left me. Her affair partner sat beside her, whispering jokes as though the hearing were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. That confidence disappeared the moment the judge reviewed the overlooked property documents. My attorney calmly explained how the ownership transfer had never been legally completed because of one forgotten filing that had expired before it was recorded. The courtroom grew silent. For the first time since our divorce, I watched uncertainty replace arrogance on both of their faces. Their lawyer argued passionately that the mistake was merely technical and that they had invested thousands of dollars renovating the property. The judge listened carefully before asking one devastating question. Can you provide evidence that the ownership defect was corrected before these renovations began? No one answered. Their attorney shuffled through folders, searched electronic files, and quietly admitted the correction had never been filed. My attorney then presented certified county records proving the legal interest remained active in my name throughout the entire period. The confidence they carried into the courtroom vanished with every passing minute. Weeks later, the written ruling arrived. Because the ownership issue had never been properly resolved, every major decision involving the property required my legal participation. Without it, several transactions connected to the home were considered invalid. Rather than awarding instant ownership to either side, the court ordered a structured resolution that gave me the right to recover my interest through a court-approved buyout process. Ironically, my ex-wife and the man she chose had spent months improving a home they never fully controlled. Their dreams suddenly depended on the signature of the husband they believed they had destroyed forever. Negotiations began immediately. They expected me to settle for a small payment, simply to make the problem disappear. Instead, I remained patient and allowed the legal process to unfold exactly as my attorney recommended. Every week the pressure on them increased. Contractors wanted payment. Lenders demanded clarification, and potential buyers refused to touch a property carrying unresolved ownership rights. Eventually, their attorney requested a private meeting. For the first time since my marriage ended, my ex-wife looked exhausted instead of victorious. She avoided eye contact while her affair partner did all the talking, but the desperation in the room was impossible to hide. The final agreement surprised everyone who had followed our story. Rather than accepting a quick payout, I exercised my legal option and purchased the remaining interest through the court-approved process at a value determined by independent appraisal and existing legal obligations. Months later, I walked to the front door of the same dream home we had once imagined growing old together. The expensive renovations they proudly showed online were still there, but the people who believed they would enjoy them forever were gone. Standing alone in the quiet living room, I realized the house no longer represented betrayal. It represented survival. One evening, while watching the sunset from the backyard, I thought about everything that had happened. Losing money had hurt. Losing my marriage had nearly broken me. But the greatest mistake would have been allowing bitterness to control the rest of my life. Revenge had never truly rebuilt anything. Patience, dignity, and trusting the legal process had done what anger never could. The woman who once believed she had taken everything from me unknowingly left behind the one opportunity that changed my future. Sometimes life doesn't reward the loudest person in the room. It rewards the one who refuses to quit when everyone else believes the story is over.